Corey Pegram here with the ITA, and I am fortunate enough to be talking with former Kalamazoo tennis standout and coach Timon Corwin. And Timon is a generous supporter of college tennis and of the sport as a whole. And he's stayed in the tennis profession for pretty much his whole life. So, Timon, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, you bet. Thank you, Corey. Glad to do it.
Awesome. Well, first, why don't we hear what you're up to nowadays, and how have you stayed involved in tennis over the years?
Yeah, so I'm currently the general manager at a club in Wisconsin. It's a beautiful family club, private club, tennis, swim, full food and beverage. Really an avenue, a journey that I wasn't anticipating, being a part of a private club when I left Kalamazoo. But yeah, just a little bit of background. So I run a club here. I'm also on the court quite a bit. We really, I mean, we're a kind of a drinking club with a tennis habit. If you've been around Wisconsinites enough, you know they like their adult beverages. Really exciting, fun place to work. It's kind of similar in many regards to the career I started at Kalamazoo. My wife and I, we got married right after law school. We met at Marquette University Law School and then moved to Michigan. And I took over the program there, coaching the men's tennis team and running the national tennis tournament in Kalamazoo, and was there for 15 years. Our 4 kids were born in Kalamazoo. We really loved that community, and that was really an amazing experience for our family and for me, and being around tennis and being around academics and at my alma mater. As you said, I played college tennis at Kalamazoo College. But I left there in 2007 to take on a role with the USTA. Was involved with junior and collegiate tennis, and actually worked quite closely with Tim Russell, who's the CEO of the ITA. He was, or I was his staff liaison. He was chair of the collegiate committee, and we developed a really wonderful friendship, wonderful working relationship, and together with the former CEO of the ITA, David Benjamin, really tried to move the dial forward with, growing college tennis, keeping alums connected, really doing everything and anything we could to promote the college tennis game. And then, that role, I really enjoyed it. And we were just a little bit, we were kind of missing the Midwest, and this opportunity came about in 2010. I've really been here since then. And like I said, it's somewhat similar to the Kalamazoo job in that I'm part of a real close-knit family of members and students that I work with, and, just a really awesome staff. And so more of like a big fish in a little pond, like Kalamazoo. It's just a small town community. In Milwaukee, you've been here. It's a big city, but it's got a very small town feel. There's a lot going on here. We love the community, and and so really through my journey and career, tennis has been a focal point, and it's been central to our family. All our kids are involved with tennis, or have been. Our 3 oldest all have played college tennis, and our youngest, it's his primary sport now. He's a freshman in high school. But in addition, I've tried to keep that volunteer mentality alive and involved with some really very special organizations here in the Milwaukee area. The Milwaukee Tennis Classic, which is one of the longest standing tournaments for college players in the country. Since I've been back here these last 10 years, I've been involved with that tournament, and the club here where I work is really proud to be one of the the sites for the tournament. The Milwaukee Tennis and Education Foundation, I'm very involved with that outreach into the community to help, the underserved get exposed to tennis and really give them a launching pad to explore the sport and education and healthy living and fitness. And then just I've always seemed to be involved, and this goes back to my days at Kalamazoo. I had some amazing mentors, both the coach at Kalamazoo, George Acker, and the athletic director, Rala Anderson. So Rala was the president of the Midwest section way back in the day in the 80s. And when I started there in 1992, one of the first things he did was take me to a Midwest meeting and introduce me to a lot of people at the section level, volunteers and staff alike. And that's really from 1992 on, I've been involved in some capacity, whether it's local or sectional or national level with the USTA. Like I said earlier, I'm currently or I guess we were talking before the Zoom, I'm currently the chair of the Midwest Collegiate Committee, and really enjoy just helping with that junior college pathway and doing what we can here in the section to promote college tennis and educate parents and kids about, just all the opportunities, whether it's playing for a varsity team or playing tennis on campus or whatever it may be, just to really do what I can to, give back basically.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I think you speaking about it, like you're the perfect person to talk about it, I think, because I mean, you've seen it, you experienced as a player and as a recruit, then you coached, you've run a big college tennis tournament in Kalamazoo, you've worked on all these USTA committees, and now you're working at a club, like you said, that hosted a college tennis tournament. And maybe even most importantly, you've been a parent to kids that play college tennis and then may play college tennis with your younger son, like you said. So, I mean, having seen it through, I think every lens possible. Why do you think, or how would you describe college tennis being so important to like a person's individual development and for preparing them for life after college?
Yeah, I mean, tennis is a really tricky sport. Like you spend your whole junior career kind of doing it for yourself and trying to become as good as you can. So maybe you have an opportunity to play college tennis, and there's really very little team aspect to junior tennis. And then you get to college and it's all about the team. You're still working really hard at your game to be the best you can be, but the goal is really to be as good as you can be so that your team does well. Now, college tennis is really fortunate because it has that individual component and the team component. And so if you have your own personal goals about where you want to take your game, you can still try to achieve those individual goals. And yet and then if you do achieve those goals, it's really going to help the team as well. So, there's so much. Tennis is such an interesting sport. It's so challenging. You're out there on your own. And yet it's the first time in college tennis where somebody can coach you in the middle of a match. So it's quite eye-opening, I think, for freshmen in particular to have that opportunity and see how their game can develop and their personalities develop. It's really the first time where you have this apprenticeship. You're out there competing. You've got upper class individuals, so you have leaders on the team that can help shape you. You have coaches. In my situation at Kalamazoo College, I didn't really know at the time that I was being, I had no idea that I'd get into coaching after playing college tennis, but the relationship that I had with George Acker, and I was recruited. I wasn't, a huge D1 recruit. I had a couple schools that were interested. I was quite immature as a high school junior and senior. Really didn't know what was out there. Really, I didn't know how to study. I didn't really know what studying was. You know, going to high school was kind of a means to an end, and you were going to end up going to college somewhere. And Coach Acker really, well, I think it's an understatement to say that he had a profound impact on my life, because I ended up going back to Kalamazoo when he retired, and taking over the program as the coach. But you know, I look back on my college playing years, and just the growth that you see in these young kids and myself, from entering as a freshman and then graduating 4 years later. And tennis, I guess, like other individual sports that have a team component in college, you know, there's just so many incredible growth moments and qualities that are required, that I think transition well into adult life. You know, you're out there, like I said, you're having to problem solve, you're having to persevere, um, and work with others, being in difficult situations and having to get yourself out of them. And I think those qualities, I guess, can be found in other college sports as well. But I just think they're really relevant in an individual sport like tennis. And I mean, you, I'm sure, can see how COVID has impacted college sports in general, and yet we have this amazing safe distancing sport that um, it really, you see that it really is a lifetime sport. You know, it's like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, you can play tennis during a pandemic and still feel safe. I mean, that's a total digression from your question, but I think, you know, the lessons I learned in college, I think that's been the foundation for, you know, what I learned from Coach Acker and others, and what I tried to instill in my players when I coached for 14 years as the head coach. And I would say, like, professionally, the most valuable year I've had as an adult was the year I was the assistant to George Acker and Rala Anderson. So I graduated from college, and then I went back, or I graduated from law school and went straight to Kalamazoo, and spent a year shadowing both George and Coach Acker and Rala Anderson. And they were really both so unique and different, and just such amazing people that that year was like invaluable, because I really had never coached or taught tennis, and I'd never been involved with an organization like the Nationals. I was a student at Kalamazoo, so I obviously saw the tournament unfold each year, but it was different. I really just kind of fell into the opportunity, and having that year with both of them healthy and kind of showing me the ropes was like, I look back on my life and I think, God, now that was one amazing year. Um, so long-winded answer to a very pointed question, but it's um, you know, it's just been a really special journey, and I love that my children have gotten into the sport, and have also seen the benefits of playing for a college team and dealing with, you know, the ups and downs, and the trials and the tough losses, and how to bounce back, and cheering on your opponent, you're cheering on your teammates after you've lost a match, and just seeing how the sport and being a part of the team has helped them has been really gratifying.
That's so cool. Yeah, that was not long winded. That was just thorough. Yeah, that was awesome. So out of all the years that you've been in tennis, in college tennis, and even with your kids, like you said, going through it now, do you have a favorite college tennis memory?
Yeah, you know, you sent me these questions last week. I was thinking about that, and there's obviously the special moments as a player. I was fortunate to be a part of some really, really strong teams. And, my freshman year, we took third as a team at SUNY Albany for the D3 championships. And I look back on that experience and playing a 3-4 match. You wouldn't think you'd be all that fired up after losing a semi, but we I we ended up winning the match 5-4. That was back in the 9-point days, and I I know my part. I lost both the matches in that match, and yet we still won. We ended up winning 3 matches, either 7-5 or 7-6 in the third, down 4-2, and then we ended up winning that match. It's like I never seen a happier team in that moment. Individually, winning a national championship was more just almost just a relief. Like I had worked so hard. I really had really enjoyed working at my game and being in great shape and doing what I could to, with my own game to help the team. So I think, that winning a national title and a team title my senior year was really special. And I really loved doing that for Coach Acker and having him be a part of that. And then as a coach, like most of my memories, Corey, are really as a coach. And, the first several years coaching at Kalamazoo and seeing Coach Acker up in the stands, watching our team, watching his team, my team compete. And, what I said earlier about that year when I was shadowing both, I was Coach Acker's assistant, and that was his last year. It was crazy. It was coaching as his best.
Mm-hmm.
He had won 2 national titles in 90 and 91, and then 91 and 92. And here I am, 93. I'm the assistant coach. We're hosting at Kalamazoo College, and we win the national title. We weren't the best team. Santa Cruz and Claremont were better teams, but we just found a way to win, and kind of going out on top with Coach Acker winning a national title at Stowe Stadium. And there's a picture of the two of us when match point was decided for that team title that made the front page of the Kalamazoo Gazette the next day. I've got it on the wall behind me. Really just a magical moment of, a lot of hard work and sending arguably the greatest D3 coach that's ever coached off with a championship was really an amazing memory. As a coach myself, like just seeing, like, I loved the trips with the guys. I don't think any one memory sticks out. We had a lot of success. My first year, I coached a national champion. I had a couple teams win the ITA small college championship, one in singles and one in doubles, and then do very well at the NCAAs later there, in their season. And those are all, those are great accomplishments for them. And it's always nice to be a part of that as a coach. And yet looking back, it's really seeing the growth of the players as they mature over the course of 4 years, and seeing what they do with their lives and how tennis impacted them, and still staying in touch with them. I think that's the beauty of it. I just got a text last night from one of my players, and he's a venture capitalist, and he's just doing amazing things. And he looks back, he said, I wasn't able to get our MIAA conference championship into the press release, but I look back on my college years and know that the development that I experienced as a college player at Kalamazoo College helped. And this is one of those defining moments. He's in his, mid-30s now, so he's been out for many years. But yeah, Corey, it's about the relationships for sure, and just seeing young people develop, and tennis being the driver, and college tennis being kind of that right in the middle of that wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. So is the picture right over your left shoulder, the one with your arm around
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the one with Coach Acker? Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Thank you.
That's really, really cool. Well, so I was gonna ask you next about, I mean, kind of why you think it's so important to support the ITA in college tennis now, but I mean, I think you've kind of answered all that already. So I mean, one other question, I think, because you've talked so much about kind of the mentor mentee relationship that you had with Coach Acker, and then that you developed with some of your players. Is there any advice that you could pass along to current players that maybe are graduating or even recent graduates, as to, hey, how can I leverage my college tennis experience to do well in the world after?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And you know, one thing I told my players, and I tell the young students that I work with today, like who are going off to college. So I'm now kind of working more in the junior space than in the college space. Although once they go on to college, they're still connected to the club, and we work with them year round, on and off the court. And really, what I say is, do what you love. Don't feel the need to go into something necessarily because you think it's going to make you a lot of money, and money's not necessarily going to make you happy. And I, you know, try not to use myself as an example, but invariably I come back to myself, and I'm sure there would have been a lot more money for me had I gone into law after law school. But I feel like I've had this really charmed life in tennis, and it's all because of the experience I had in college tennis. It was so profound that I ended up going into coaching and making tennis the centerpiece of my life. And um, there are a few sayings that Coach Acker had that have always stuck with me, and it was like, perfect practice makes perfect. Not practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And I think whatever you do and you're intrigued by, or you're curious about, really dive into it and really explore it. And if you love it, you found something that you can call that you can go into as a career. The curiosities, the elements of, when you're in college trying to figure out what you don't want to do. And when you're doing that, do it to the best of your abilities, not just dabble in it, but really see and if you're inclined in one area, whether it's right brain or left brain, just if you do what you love, you're going to end up having as much money as you need, but you're going to be really happy. The other, and I use this in my career running a club. No one's ever totally useless. They can always serve as a bad example. And that sounds really funny. And it's often a really good line to say in a speech when you're talking to a crowd of people. But I had basically had a no-cut program at Kalamazoo College. There was always somebody that was just grateful to be on the team and would later in life give back to the team financially, and with learning about people who might be good recruits for me to recruit. And so even though they may have been maybe baggage on the court, like we had tight quarters. At Stowe Stadium, there's plenty of courts, and indoors we had, a really good facility at Kalamazoo College. But that's kind of a negative quote. You can always serve as a bad example. I never wanted to cut anybody. And here, even like, with staff, it's like, I always try to coach them up. There's, if they're doing what they love, then they're coachable. If they're not doing what they love, then you never know who's doing you a favor, because you may let them go, and then they find their true calling in something else. But those are a couple of things that my advice for others do, explore, and in your exploration, give it your all so that you really know whether that's something you're going to be good at and love.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Tim, and this is really, really awesome. I think, I mean, from my seat, I mean, you kind of personify literally everything that we think makes college tennis so great. And you've just been so helpful to the ITA over the years, so supportive of tennis as a whole. So we're really, really appreciative of everything that you're doing. And so
No,
thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
I appreciate the ITA and college tennis. And you didn't ask me that question, but I would say, like, one of the things that's so amazing about the ITA that I think a lot of student athletes take for granted is the ranking system, the awards program, the recognition, the telling of the story of college tennis, and whether through social media or websites or just press releases, it really, I mean, I think of the ITA as synonymous with college tennis. You're the governing body, and you really protect the integrity of the game. I think of the amount of work that went into, when the USTA said, "Now you're going to have to use your own officials. It's going to be a different, you're not going to be able to use USTA officials." I remember one of your colleagues, Erica Jasper, like the amount of work that went into like really creating your own group of officials and making it an ITA, a part of you and a part of college tennis. I think that's another really, really special thing. And at the end of the day, a lot of the rules that come out of college tennis and out of the ITA end up making it into the pro game too. Like you think about the let serves on, or no ad scoring for doubles in pro tennis, and the match tiebreak, and there's just so many elements to college tennis that it's like there's a lot of really smart, the coaches that are part of the industry. You've got this just tremendous group of people that are. I remember going to the ITA convention as a coach and just coming home and telling my wife, like, I cannot believe how smart my peers are. Like, it was so intimidating. And I just think it's a great organization. So I'm really happy to support it. And, once our last kid is out of high school and out of college, then I'm sure Rachel and I can do a little bit more too.
Oh, well, no, you do plenty as is. I mean, everything that you're doing. So thank you so much, seriously. And,
Yeah.
we wish you guys the best of luck at your club over the coming months. I know with COVID, it's been a challenge for sure. And yeah, I hope you and your family have a really good Thanksgiving. And thanks so much again for doing this.
Yeah.